Hello listeners, Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime. Hello listeners. Tonight I'm going to be representing a series I first released in 2021, just 7 months after the disappearance of Zack Lefave occurred. The timing of this release is not coincidental. January 1st of 2024 will mark the 3rd anniversary of the last time Zack was seen. As well, given the downtime the show had over the holidays, I took advantage of the opportunity and gave this prior series a technical fresh coat of paint. So let's get into the episode.
You are listening to the Nighttime Podcast.
New Year's Eve is a special night. As the final minutes of the year are spent, we're often surrounding ourselves with family and friends to celebrate both the year that was and look forward to applying the lessons we've learned to the upcoming year, hopefully making it a little better than the last. New Year's Eve is supposed to symbolize the end of a chapter, and New Year's Day, renewal, or perhaps a fresh start. But in the story we're going to hear tonight, any symbolism embedded into the New Year's celebration is twisted into a cruel version of itself. Our story takes us to New Year's Eve, 2020, in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. The central figure in this episode, 21-year-old Zack Lefave, plans to spend his night celebrating the new year by partying with friends at a local hotel. But sadly, as the calendars change from 2020 to 2021, something would happen in Zack's life that would bring about the kind of change that he, nor any of his loved ones, would ever have expected. After stumbling out of a house party only minutes before the New Year's countdown begins, Zack seems to walk off into oblivion. And the only trail he leaves behind doesn't provide any form of answers. Far from it. The last known sighting of Zack Lefave was at 12:25 a.m. on New Year's Day 2021. A passing motorist noticed a young man not wearing any pants walking alone along a dark stretch of road. It's widely agreed that this pantless man was Zack, and this seems to be the last time anyone saw him. But as you probably imagine, there's a whole lot more to this story, and in a multi-part series, I'm going to try to get into everything. Tonight, in this episode of Nighttime, to get us started, we're going to explore the events that lead up to Zack's disappearance. We'll hear what we know about his activity that night, and of course, we're going to follow the complicated route the search for Zack has taken. To help guide us along, I'll be welcoming the Lefave family spokesperson and Zack's first cousin, Kimberly Morton, for a discussion around the disappearance of Zack Lefave.
This whole community is suffering and wanting Zack home, and we won't stop till we have him home.
It's been an emotional start to 2021 for Zack Lefave's family and friends as they continue to hold on to hope that he will be found.
He wished me a happy new year, and he was happy. And I said, what's so special about this? Happy New Year. He said, it's a brand new year. And that's the last I heard of him.
So, Kim, where I'd like to start is with you telling me a bit about your role as family spokesperson. Like, how did this come about? How did you end up speaking on behalf of Zack's family?
Well, at the beginning, we had another family member doing it, and she now is kind of my sidekick. I'm the more public Facebook kind of person with the comments and messaging people for questions and whatnot. And she's more like just behind the scenes, kind of making the phone calls, doing the investigative work, like we help each other out. I was just asked by Lorna and Darren to do it, and I wasn't going to ever say no. I told them anything you need, I'll be doing it. So they reached out, asked if I could take like the media calls and set things up. And like I said, with the Facebook comments, it's the Facebook page. I'm a moderator on there. They just wanted somebody to take care of that stuff so they didn't have to have the bombardment of everybody trying to get to them. Yeah. So I kind of weed it out for them. Like I'll send them stuff, or like when you got a hold of me, I had sent her, and is this okay if I do this? Like, do you mind? Do you want to be a part of it, kind of thing? And so she gives me the heads up, and then I go from there. Yeah. So
I think like a lot of people who fortunately haven't had the experience that like your family have, I think a lot of people would be surprised how much work falls on the family as they're dealing with their grief and searching for a missing loved one. there's incredible demands for, interviews and media and running like a Facebook group.
Yeah.
And the group dedicated to Zack, there's thousands of people in there. So I'm sure there's a lot of like drama and stuff that needs your attention.
Tons. And we have a very strong team, the people that set up the Facebook group. There's a lady that does these sorts of things. She set it all up. I don't know anything about any of that stuff. So thank God for them people. They have the whole thing. They take care of all the comments. They're reading the warnings and making sure people are acting right, deleting what they want. I very rarely have to deal with that. They send me stuff that they think I need to see or whatnot, but I don't have to deal so much with that. So we have a whole team pretty much dealing with that too. So wow. It's definitely a whole community effort. We have a lot of people on our side, and it's very grateful. We're extremely grateful for these people. Some of them are total strangers. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Wow. Well, let's start by talking a little bit about Zack's family, just so I can kind of contextualize like what sort of family and what sort of life he comes from. Like, tell me a bit about, first of all, your connection to Zack, and then maybe just tell me a bit about his family and your family.
Okay, well, I'm Zack's first cousin. Zack's mom, Lorna, is my father's sister. We're a very close family, like they're very close. He lived with his grandmother at the time. His mother just lived up the road. Everybody's right there. He was a homebody, really. Like, he was a regular 20-year-old kid. He was 20, going on 21 this year. He turned 21 on the 3rd of January. And we just want our boy home. Mm-hmm. Helen, the grandmother, she's just beside herself. Very close family. The only son of that family, Lorna's only child. He has brothers and sisters on his father's side. They're from New Brunswick. They actually some of them came down when we were helping to help search, came right down. Very close. Yeah.
And I know you're a bit older than Zack. What's your relationship like with him? Like, despite the age difference, I'm sure you're around together a lot in a small town like Yarmouth.
Well, not really the last couple of years. Like I said, I don't really go places, and he's 21, so like partying, but like I'm really close with my aunts and stuff. Like, so I babysat him a bunch when we were little, and I remember there was one time I babysat him. It was only a couple hours, and I think it was the first time. And I was, like I said, I'm only 14 years younger, so I was, I don't know, 15 maybe, and that kid was wild. I couldn't control him for nothing. I said when they got back, I ain't having kids. This is it. No, he was wild, just a wild child. Loved activities, active, running around, just crazy. He was a very wild child. He loved kids as like a little boy. He, like my daughter, when I had my daughter, loved her. His little cousin Mackenzie, they were just inseparable. And there's a picture of his grandfather's daughter and her son and him, and he's feeding him a little bottle. Like, he loved kids. Yeah, very, very kid friendly.
Yeah, it's funny when you look at like the photos that are circulating of Zack. Surprisingly, a lot of them are him with like kids on his lap, and
yeah, he loved children, like loved them. Mm-hmm. And it was like him and Mackenzie are Mackenzie is going to be 16, so they're only a couple years in age difference. So when they were little, they were always together. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that at the time of his disappearance, he was living with his grandmother, or grandparents, but what was his life like? Like, what kind of things was he into or spending time doing?
Loved four-wheeling the whole day, New Year's Day before the party and stuff. Him and a couple of his friends were out wheeling all day, spent the whole day out wheeling, and then come home and went out or whatever. But yeah, four-wheeling. He loved baseball, all sports, just playing video games with his friends. Lorna said that's what he'd do. He'd come home after work and jump on the games with his friends, or he'd have his friends over to Helen's house, and like they just hang out there all the time. Like, he wasn't a troublesome kid. He wasn't out, breaking into things and robbing places. No trouble with the law. It wasn't like he was some wild child. He was just a regular 20-year-old kid.
Yeah, that's how it sounds. And in all statements I see from
job.
Yeah. Oh, what was it that he did for his job before?
He worked at a red and white store. I don't know if you have them. It's like a superstore, off-brand, smaller grocery store kind of thing.
Yeah, because I saw the name of the company because I know them, as well as a few of his prior employees, had donated money that is going towards a reward for
Yes,
information.
the company he worked for when he lived in the valley, they donated, and the company that he worked for in Yarmouth donated both very large sums of money.
Okay, yeah.
Or pledged for our reward.
Yeah, I just wasn't familiar with the name, like red and white. I don't think we have that
It's like
here
a
in
small-
Halifax.
A grocery store. It'd be like No Frills or just something like a smaller chain grocery store.
Okay.
I think he worked in the meat department, I'm pretty sure.
All right. Well, let's get to the events that surround his disappearance, but I'll start with, like, from your point of view, how did you learn of your cousin being missing? Like, I'm certain that in a family, when something like this happens, word quickly spreads. Do you recall how you first found out?
Yeah, I literally just opened my eyes that morning. It was New Year's Day. I, of course, went out the night before and I slept in a little the next day. It was, I think, 10 or 10:30, and I opened my phone, and the first Facebook post I see is my Aunt Rhonda, not Zach's mom, but Zach's aunt. Has anyone seen Zack Lefave? Please message me. So, of course, I messaged her right away, and that's what she said. We haven't found him since last night. He hasn't been seen. Nobody's heard from him. So that's when I jumped in my car and I headed out there, and we started our week-long outdoor search in the woods, basically.
Wow.
My aunt started that search at 4 a.m. that morning, though, but we all jumped on board quite quickly. Community, everybody.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, like, when like a 20-year-old on New Year's Eve doesn't come home that night, I feel like that one night in particular, people may have a bit more of an understanding of, like, oh, I'm sure he's, like, up to something or out with someone. But it sounds like if they were searching at 4 a.m., it sounds like people must have been right off the bat.
Well, one of his friends, after they had left the party and Zach went missing, he went home, and after he couldn't get a hold of Zach, when he got home from the party, that's when he got a hold of, I think, the RCMP and Lorna, and they started their search.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So tell me about his night leading up to his disappearance, because you've been able to trace a lot of what he was up to that night. So
pretty much until he walked out of that party. Yeah.
Because ultimately it'll all come down to like a 25-ish minute period, it looks like, where whatever happened. But before that, again, it's New Year's Eve just passed, like, we're talking 6 months ago. He's out at a party. Is this like a party in the community with friends? Like, where was he?
It was just outside of the town of Yarmouth, probably about 15-minute drive-ish. They had started their night or their day. Like I said, they were out biking on the four-wheelers all day. My grandmother said he come home around 4-ish, showered, left around 6-ish. They had headed to the Grand Hotel, which is right on our main street. A couple of the girls that he was out with that night had a room there. So that's where they started their night. There's pictures of him in the Grand Hotel in the hallway, and there's pictures of him in the hotel room, partying, drinking, having fun. Then they left the Grand Hotel. I do believe it was around 10 o'clock. 2 of his friends went to the party and 1 showed up afterwards, I do believe. They got a cab there. They partied, whatever, and the last thing that anybody seen was Zach was just gone. There's only one person that said they actually seen him leave. It was a kid that had opened the door for him. He couldn't get the door open, so he said, "Here you go, bud." And I mean, a bunch of kids at a party, somebody's going outside, and it wasn't a party of Zach's friends per se. It was a party of other people, and they kind of just showed up because one of his friends had mutual friends there. So It wasn't really people that Zach knew. So nobody's really going to be paying attention to this kid. He's just going out to pee or going to puke or, doing what they do. So he just left. And that is the end of that until we hear the witness reports. There was a couple people that said they seen him walking along the Noir Road. One said that her husband heard it sounded like a one-way heated conversation. So it sounded like maybe he was yelling at somebody on the phone. They only heard a male voice. They didn't hear a female. The other person said they seen him walking because they were outside watching the fireworks. So that's right around 12 o'clock, right when people would be shooting fireworks off. And then that's when the car reports come with the people that seen him. There was one man driving. They seen him walking. He was driving his wife home from a party, and he was going to go back fishing. So his wife said, "Drop me off at home, and on your way back, check on him." He had no pants on. January. So when that man come back by, he was nowhere to be found.
Well,
and there was another witness that said the same thing.
That they saw Zack walking without pants on.
Without pants, yes. So he was walking with no pants on, just boxer shorts.
Okay, I'm going to back up to the party. So just so I get an understanding of how this happened, is he was at a hotel in Yarmouth.
Yes.
Initially with some closer friends, it seems.
Yes, that was his group of people.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, they left there to Plymouth, which is like a neighboring community, I'm assuming, of Yarmouth, to go to a house party, but not with close contacts with people who are just...
Right. It was actually a high school girls' New Year's Eve party. It was mostly high school kids.
Oh, really? Okay. So he would have been older.
So we think that it was maybe a girl involved, and one of these guys wanted to go out for a girl or something like that. Those sorts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't anybody Zack had known personally.
Mm-hmm. And the people that were at the party with Zack, that arrived to Plymouth with him for this party, they didn't specifically see him leave. There's just someone in the house remembers opening the door for this guy that they probably didn't know well.
Yes. According to what I know, because I don't really know what these witnesses said to the police, but according to what we've been told, that nobody's seen him leave. We don't know. Mm-hmm. So after it was around 12:30, I think one of the boys said they called a cab, and they were talking to Zack on the phone at that point. And that's when Zack was mentioning they were trying to get him to come back to the party and get the cab. And he was saying he couldn't because he had no pants. He had no pants on. So the pants, he left the party with his pants, is what we were told. And then all of a sudden now he has no pants on. The pants were found only a 30-second walk from where the house is, on a little dirt road that leads way off into the woods.
And just for a lot of people will listen to this who aren't familiar with Yarmouth or Plymouth. And in fact, I've said before we started, I think Yarmouth is the one spot in Nova Scotia that I haven't spent time. Give me a sense of this area specifically. I think of Yarmouth as a fairly remote little town, far away from everything else, but Plymouth,
about 5 street lights and that kind of thing. It's not very big. You can drive it in 10 minutes the whole way around.
And what about Plymouth? That must be, I don't know if I've heard of Plymouth before this story.
So when you leave Yarmouth out of one of the ways, you'll go through Arcadia, and then you'll head towards what they call Wedgeport. So Plymouth would be right before Wedgeport. Wedgeport's a very small fishing community, fishing village. You may have heard of the tuna festival of Wedgeport. That's a big thing we do here every summer. So it would be a community right before there. So it's basically just one winding road, speed limit 70 kilometers an hour. There's a school right before where this all happened, an elementary school, just a small community, houses quite close together. And
And if you were in Plymouth, would it be reasonable to walk from Plymouth to Yarmouth, or is there too much distance between the two?
You definitely could. It would probably take you about an hour. If you're drunk and strutting hard, you'd probably get there in about an hour.
Strutting hard.
Yeah. Wanting to get home.
Yeah, no, I get you.
So that was one of our initial thoughts, that he was trying to walk home.
Okay.
Because he was seen walking towards Yarmouth, he was initially seen walking towards Wedgeport, and then seen again walking towards Yarmouth. So it's like he got maybe confused.
Mm-hmm. So for whatever reason, he leaves the party, and I can only assume he would have been walking back to Yarmouth or back home. It would seems to be what would make sense given the direction. Shortly after leaving, for again some unknown reason, he removes his pants and leaves his wallet, right? With his pants?
With money and debit card in it, and his hat, which the wallet is okay, but him leaving his hat blows everybody's mind. Zack never went nowheres without a hat. Nowheres.
And
so for him to be drunk, take his pants off, he'd never take the hat off. He'd never leave the hat willingly. Mm-hmm. He'd always put that cap back on.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking with his pants, we're talking about midnight in December, January in Nova Scotia. It's a cold night, presumably.
It wasn't really that night, though. I was out. We had a bonfire at my boss's house for New Year's Eve, and it was about 4 degrees that night. So it wasn't overly cold. There was no snow. The snow only started 2 or 3 days after Zack went missing. We don't get a lot of snow down here at all.
Okay.
Mostly rain.
Yeah. And
it wasn't too cold. cold that night,
And
but cold enough that you wouldn't want to be walking around in your boxers willingly.
yeah, exactly. And now what puzzles me is when I look at the timeline that you've been able to piece together. Actually, before I get to that, when he first disappears, I'm assuming the timeline hasn't been developed yet. When when the family realized, say, the next day that he didn't come home from this party, what was known at that point? Like, I'm thinking it must have been a while before these eyewitness reports started to come out.
It was, yeah, the next probably second day in is when they started with the witness reports. So the first day, like, really in my mind is just a blur. I just put on my hunter's gear and headed to the woods. Basically, there was hundreds of people out. The community hall in Plymouth was open for us. There was people dropping off donations and food. It was phenomenal. Ground search and rescue was out. The timeline, didn't come until that day. So the first day, we really didn't know much. The first day was the day the clothes were found. So what we were thinking was where the clothes were found was on a side road. So you walk from the party and you would turn up this side road. So we were kind of going in that direction because, like, his pants were here. Did he take them off for some reason? Did he pee himself? Did he, like, he's drunk, right? Did he take his pants off and keep walking? Because there was a phone call to one of his friends that stated that he was on the road that she bought her dog. But that road that this friend bought her dog turns out is a 25-minute drive towards Quinnen. They call the place called Quinnen. So it's way off. It sounded like he was confused. He was on a dirt road and thought maybe it was that dirt road, because at midnight in the dirt road in the dark in the woods, it all looks the same, right?
Yeah.
So we're not sure that if that conversation actually happened, we're not sure that he even knew at that point where he was, if he knew he was still in Plymouth, or if he thinks he was in Quinnen, or if he actually maybe did get to Quinnen, but he couldn't have walked to Quinnen. That's impossible in that time frame. And even driving is a stretch in that time frame.
Yeah. And it was multiple phone calls, because when I look at the timeline, it seems like Zack, after he leaves this party, over a period of roughly 35 minutes, he makes a series of phone calls that appear to show him becoming more distraught as the calls go on. Is that fair to say, based on what
it seems that way? That's what the kids that he was with have been saying. Like, the guy he was with, he said that he was with some person of color, and he had mentioned something about a black truck, but this friend said that he didn't sound distressed. He didn't sound out of place or anything. He assumed, okay, you're with people, you're fine. We're going to go home. The other friend was the one that had mentioned him mentioning being cold or lost. So that conversation happened after the first couple of conversations with his friends at the party. This other person he was talking to was not at that party. So he was calling other friends at that time. And the last phone call he made was to one of his friends who was supposed to go out with them that night, but ended up sick, and he stayed home, and he was home sleeping when Zack had called him at 12:07, I think, or something of those sorts. And that was his last phone call. And then there was 2 or 3 media. So it'd be like Snapchat or Facebook Messenger calls, but we don't know who those were to, or what they were about. So
in all of the calls that you know of were just to friends throughout, that he was connected with. That
kind of seemed to me like he was maybe trying to find a ride. He called like a few different people. He was talking with the people he was at the party with the most, and that's when he said that they were trying to get him to come back to get this cab, and but he couldn't because he had no pants. And then afterwards he was with people of color, and he was in something about a black truck he had mentioned. He had also, and I don't know if these are true or not, this is just what I heard from the beginning, that him mentioning something about a Sims Road, which the Sims Road is just maybe a 7-minute walk from the party going towards Yarmouth. It would be just a road a little ways up. He had mentioned that, and he had mentioned something about a horse, and there was a horse right around where the Sims Road is. There's a mailbox with a horse on it.
Wow.
So we were thinking, did he walk that far down? But according to the witnesses that seen him that were driving, he wouldn't have made it that far in those short amount of times.
Yeah.
So
really what is you have these calls where he seems to be at least disoriented or confused, or mistaking where he is. you know he doesn't have his pants on because the pants were found, and he told people this.
Yes, and he did say to his friend, "I don't have my pants." So,
And as far as the witnesses who are driving past, there's been multiple people who saw him. Do those statements kind of make do they work together? Like, do they describe him walking, the same direction near the
yes,
same?
the times are the same. One describes him walking in one direction, and the other one in the other direction. But it seems like he started walking towards Wedgeport, realized he was backwards, and wanted to go towards Yarmouth.
Okay.
This one was seen a little ways up here, and then he was seen afterwards walking towards Yarmouth. So that's what we assume. And then both of those witnesses went back for him, and he was not there.
Yeah, and that
was a 15-minute time window.
And that's why there's this certain period of time that seems so important, because these witnesses drive past and see him, and when they return, 15-ish minutes later, he's not there. So what is the time frame that whatever happened? Like, I know the timeline that I saw had it narrowed down to a certain series of minutes.
I would say about a half an hour.
Okay.
He left the party roughly around midnight. The witness that seen him walking was outside with her son or daughter watching the fireworks. So that was at midnight. On New Year's Eve is when you shoot off fireworks. So he left around 12, and then the witnesses were like 12:15, 12:20. And that was, so about a half hour.
Okay.
Of him walking around and then gone.
Wow. And now with his clothes, like his pants, hat, and wallet being found, was there ever, at this point, despite all the searching that's happened, has there been any sign or evidence beyond this stuff from that, the minutes after he left? Has anything else been found that's been made public?
Not found. No, we haven't found like clothing, or we're still missing his cell phone, him, of course. We believe he was still wearing his plaid shirt that is in the missing persons poster. None of that has been found. Cell phone went dead. I've been hounding the police to try to find it, because I feel like in 2021 we probably could do something like that. I've kind of been on the police to get some messages and stuff off the phone. So we're still dealing with the phone issue a little bit. I feel like there's more that could be done about that. We did get most of what was on the phone, like social media wise and whatnot, but no, nothing's been found. No footprints, no tracks, no nothing.
I just have to ask about like the social media. Often you hear of people struggling not only to, get info from the phone, but also to get info from social media. How were you successful in getting the social media stuff? Was it as simple as someone having like his password or something, or were you able to?
Yeah, I broke into it.
Okay, I
got into it.
I was thinking it was either that or like you contacted Instagram, and I figured that wasn't what happened.
I think I don't know. My aunt and the other person, that's the other family person, was doing. Like I said, I don't do technology very well, so that was all them. But yeah, I think they just got into it. Phone records obviously came from the phone company and whatnot, but the media stuff, I think we just hacked into it.
Good. Well, with it being such an open book with really no reason, like no obvious answer, is there a theory that people feel is likely? Like, is there anything to go on?
I got a message on January 24th from a girl, and then another one on January 25th. And they named a name, and that name and names that go with it, and stories have changed a bit. Rumors are rumors, but that name and that story has been the one constant through this whole thing from January 24th. And then we add to it every single day. I get messages from people, and now the last couple of weeks my phone's been crazy. But yeah, no, it's the same story. Basically, add a name, take out a name, change something, but because we know how rumors work. But it's been the same consistent story, and we have two of those. And we're just trying now to figure out if they tie together,
or if they're just possibly even just rumors.
Yeah, and they very well could be. So, but I just feel the amount of messages that we've received, the amount of things that connect people to people. It's a small town, right? You can go on somebody's Facebook and you can look at their friends list, and then you know all about them, basically, what kind of person they are. So there's ties and connects we've made, but yeah, there's two prevailing stories, basically. We're just trying to find that missing piece.
Yeah, so there's these kind of stories that are being shared, then there's also the option of just an accidental situation. But
yes, like there is a running river right at the end of the Knoll Road. Very well could have fallen in there. It was at the time he disappeared, I do believe tide was coming up almost high, so it's very possible that you're drunk, you fall, or like we thought at the beginning, a hit and run. Somebody hit him and then like fired him off into the river, and they carry on. Maybe they didn't even know they hit him. Maybe they thought they hit a deer. That happens here all the time. So
now, with these names that are being thrown around and these theories, like I'm assuming that we're talking about speculation that foul play was involved.
Yeah.
Was Zach known to be having like any kind of like difficulty with people, or any kind of reason that would make him like a target of someone's vengeance?
I mean, we've heard lots of, like I say, rumors and stuff. It's not really Zach that would be in trouble. It may be the friends that he chose to hang out with, kind of thing.
Okay.
But we've also heard rumors that he may have done some things, or like, but rumors are rumors. We don't know at this point. So
yeah, and that's I suppose a part of the problem with, given the profile and the of Zach's story and how many people talk about it, people will come out of the woodwork, I'm assuming. And like you as the spokesperson, I'm sure you dealt with, I read in the news a recent report of a ransom demand related to, and although that seems to have no credibility at all, I think that's an example of the interest in this story kind of bringing out people who may know something, but also people who are either looking to gain or just looking to be involved in something like
right. And it seems like there's a lot of people that just want a message just to be involved, or just want a message to see what I know, or they'll message me and say, hey, have you heard about so-and-so, to get me talking, or yeah, there's a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people that'll just say like the craziest things just to be involved. Like I send everything I get to the police, and Lorna and my other spokesperson, and I just weed through it, though. I don't send everything I get, because some of the stuff is just outrageous.
Yeah, but I guess that's...
So, yeah, I spend a lot of time weeding through the shit.
Yeah, well, I guess that's a part of the need for a family spokesperson, because if not, Zach's parents would be forever trying to navigate what's important and what it... Yeah. Tell me about the...
And I mean, as parents, I wouldn't want... I don't know if I would want that bombardment, so... That's why I'm...
Tell me about the ransom demand. Like I understand that this has been, I guess, proven to have no credibility. But what happened?
They got a phone call. I think it was Lorna got a phone call, or Helen. I'm not sure. Like I said, my mind's all over the place. I'll be working on something else. Sometimes I miss stuff. But one of them got a phone call, and they said they knew where Zach was, and if they sent gift card codes or gift cards, then they would tell them where they were, and they wanted like $500 worth of gift cards or some kind of crazy stuff.
Okay.
So they did report that to the police. They checked it out. I think the phone number come from somewhere over God knows where. Like, yeah. So I don't know where they find them, but it was quick. It was only not even a month after he went missing. It was quite fast.
But I'm thinking like what's really sad about that and dark about that is that there's somebody who is scouring the internet for active missing persons cases, thinking I'm going to get some, really Best Buy gift cards from that family.
And the saddest part about it is some people would do that because they do anything to, like, they just think, oh my God, you know where my son is, here, take this, tell me, like, you know what I mean? Some people would do that.
That's awful.
They know that's why they do it.
Now, getting back to Zach's story, something I want to ask about is Yarmouth is a small community. You don't often see Yarmouth in the news when you're in Halifax. However, there's been, around the time that Zach disappeared, there was another, I believe, still unsolved murder of a young man named Colton.
Yes.
Is there
Colton Cook.
Colton Cook? Is there any connection in terms of like friends or anything between Zach and Colton? Like, is there any link? Socially?
I don't think so. Colton was a year or two older than Zach. I don't think there was any connections. There's no connections in the case. They have 3 people in custody right now for that case. We actually have been working with that family to organize walks and Facebook groups and things for justice for Colton. It's been 9 months now, I think, since these guys got arrested. They still haven't made their pleas yet because of the COVID, because they don't want to do video calls. A day and a half time served for every day they're sitting in jail right now. So we need justice for that family. We need people not to forget about Zach. If you checked out my Facebook or the Facebook page, the Zach one, there's a big post I made on Thursday. We did a big walk in town, signs, horns, the whole thing. Justice for Zach, bring Zach home, justice for Colton. This town's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
On top of that murder that happened before Zach, just 3 weeks ago, there was a guy shot in the head right on a main street in our town. Drug dealers, drug messes. We have no arrests made in that case. We have nothing. We haven't heard a thing from the RCMP on that, and it was almost a month ago. So things like that can't happen in this town.
Yeah, because again, Yarmouth is a small town, but is drugs a problem in Yarmouth?
Oh, drugs it's bad.
Really? Okay.
I was parked on the street the other day and I see this man stumbling out of his mind walking up Main Street with no shoes on at 4:00 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Things like that you see constantly here. Drugs are a really bad problem here, and one of these prevailing stories has to do with drugs, drug debts. Hell's Angels have been mentioned to us, biker gangs have been mentioned to us, so there's a drug problem here.
Yeah. Did Zach ever have any run-ins with the law or any legal problems that you're aware of in any way?
No, not with the cops or anything. I mean, I'm sure he did he partied. He was a 20-year-old boy, but he wasn't out selling drugs. We checked his bank statements. We know there was no criminal activity like that. The kid came home after work every day and played video games with his friends or jumped on his 4-wheeler. He didn't have people showing up to his house all hours of the night. He wasn't out running the roads all hours of the night. He wasn't selling drugs. If he was doing drugs, then that's a different story. So is every single 21-year-old guy in this town, pretty much. That's how this town is right now. But there was I don't think he's ever even been arrested, honestly. Like there's been no break and enters, no assault charges, nothing like that. Yeah. He was just a 21-year-old regular guy.
And that's the way it seems with everything I read. And it seems that whatever Zach did in his life, he seems like he's really managed to connect with a lot of people, because the community support and the support online of people kind of rallying behind Zach and his family has just been completely wild. Like, can you tell me a bit about the support that your community and Zach's friends and family have received?
Well, just from day one, like I said, at the hall, the whoever would own the Plymouth Hall, they opened their doors for us. People were dropping off food all day. That hall was full, stacks of pizzas, crock pots full of beans, sandwiches, just everything you could think of. Lorna works for the Superstore in town, so the Superstore donated a bunch of stuff. We have, the $30,000 cash reward. That's pretty substantial. That's made up from the 2 employers that he had, and from one big anonymous donation, and then just little other donations. The search, a friend of mine named Victoria, she took it right upon herself with a few others and organized. After Ground Search and Rescue had called off their search, they continued to search for, I think, a week and a half or 2 weeks after. They had a man in the community open up his shed for them. They had generators. They had set up graphs and maps on their phones so they could track where they looked. Like it was unbelievable. I couldn't even believe the things that they were doing. Like I'd never be able to do that kind of stuff. So forever grateful for those people.
Yeah, it shows that when a community kind of comes together, people use their own skills or whatnot, or someone has access.
We had drones, we had dogs, we had all of it. People coming from other parts of Nova Scotia with their animals and drones, and Yeah, it was quite something. And even still right now with the shares, and we have a 5 by 4 foot missing poster in one of the stores right on the corner, a busy intersection in town. She reached out to the family for us to get her one so she could put it up there.
Wow.
The missing posters, if you drive downtown Main Street or Stars Road, they're everywhere. It's all over poles. We had people putting them up, store windows. They're still all out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so for people who are watching or listening to us that want to either learn more about Zack or get involved in some way to advocate for him, where would you just suggest people turn? Like, what should people do?
Definitely check out our Facebook page, Bring Zack Home. All the pictures people have posted on there. Like you said, the timeline's on there, the missing posters on there. There is PDF files if you'd like to print out your own missing persons posters. We have millions here, but we've had people from Shelburne all the way to Halifax across Canada wanting to put up these posters. So we put the PDF there so they can print them out themselves. Definitely check out the Facebook page, keep sharing all the posts. We just really need to keep his name out there. If we don't keep pressure on our RCMP, who are severely overwhelmed with this town right now, then we feel like they're going to just, something new is going to happen and we're going to be pushed back, and then something else is going to happen. And that's kind of what's happening with this town. So just things like that happen here on a regular basis.
Wow.
This town is crawling with police officers right now. And it's not making sense to us.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I want to ask before we wrap it up is with Zack's parents, how are they handling all this? I don't think I've seen, other than a few photos of them like in the marches or whatnot. It doesn't seem like they've done a lot of like interviews and stuff. I'm just wondering how they're handling what's happening.
They don't, that's why I'm here. So I can do the interviews and do the talking. It's just, they're good. They're taking it day by day. Like they stay busy, very busy, just to keep their minds off things. I suppose it helps a lot. Everybody's okay. We've been through all of the emotions so far. Worried, angry. Now, personally, me at this level, I'm just angry. But they're okay. We've accepted what probably is going to be the outcome of this. So,
because it's been 6 months now, or just going on the 6 months since he's disappeared. And you say the family's accepting it. Like, is there still hope that he'll be found alive, or is?
Of course. But after 7 months of all of the things we were getting rumors of and hearing, and the stories and the whodunit and this happened, it's kind of hard to think that he's still out there, I guess. I mean, that could be my personal opinion, but definitely there's always hope. We always hope he's going to come home.
I want to thank you for joining Kim and I for our discussion surrounding the unexplained disappearance of Zack Lefave. As I mentioned in the beginning, my exploration of Zack's case isn't going to end here. In the next episode, we're going to look more closely at the initial search for Zack by speaking with Victoria Sampson, who was the coordinator of the civilian search.
Just because we knew he was intoxicated and that he didn't have pants on, if we did find him, we knew that he would be in bad shape if he was just hurt or lost.
If anyone listening has any information about the disappearance of Zack Lefave, please do the right thing and contact the Yarmouth RCMP at 902-742-9106. You can also anonymously contact Nova Scotia Crime Stoppers toll-free at 1-800-222-TIPS. Or if for whatever reason you're uncomfortable with doing any of that stuff yourself, you can contact me and I'll pass the information along on your behalf. Zack's family needs and deserves answers. Now, before I wrap it up, I also want to call out to anyone connected to Zack's disappearance who'd like to share their story. You can contact me at nighttimepodcast@gmail.com. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode, but before we part, I'm going to end with some thanks. First, a big thank you to Kim Morton for sharing her family's tragic story with us. I'd like to give a shout out to LJ from the Dystopian Simulation podcast, who provides the voiceovers for this series, and Monty Datta, who contributes the music. And then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. And on the topic of support, I want to thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Lori, K-Post, and Samantha, thank you for going premium. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can help keep this going in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple dollars a month, and that money funds the creation of the show. But also, the premium feed will give you the episodes 2 days early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a full back catalog of episodes. If that sounds like something you'd like, you can go premium right now at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still help support the show by simply sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know what we're doing here. If anyone listening has any story ideas or wants to get feedback on the show or submit a question or comment to be aired in an upcoming episode, you can do all that and more at nighttimepodcast.com. I hope to hear from you. But until then, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte.